Welcome to the space, good people. Welcome to the Speaking for Profit podcast. I am really looking forward to today's conversation with Cesar Cervantes. We're going to talk a little bit about how to write a great speech. We're going to talk about what does it mean to be a comedian, gone a coach, and we're also going to answer any questions that you may have in the chat. So if you're here live, go on to put the hashtag live in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. I see someone here is in Toronto, Canada, which is really cool. That's amazing. I'm sure it's pretty cold there. And then we have someone who's Hawaii, currently in St. Martin. So you just probably living a good life. So I don't want jealousy going on in the chat, but I just want to call it out. We have people from all around the world. But Cesar, I just want to thank you so much for being here. I want to give you your flowers because you are just an amazing asset to my community, Speaking for Profit. So many speakers come to me and they're like, Evolve, I want to get paid to speak. And I'm like, cool, but we need to work on this speech, right? And I'll send them to you and you do some great work with them, help them get on TEDx stages. And you're just when I think about the guru of how to put together a speech that not only gets people paid, but impacts the world, I instantly think of you. So thank you so much for your labor of love and all that you do for us.
That's awesome, Evolve. Thank you so much. Your intros just get better and better. I'm getting emotional over here. That's awesome.
Oh, we've known each other for a while, so you gotta show love to the folks who are still around and doing this work. But I know you, but I would love if folks did know you and they're walking up to you at an amazing conference or event, what's the elevator pitch? What do you do, and how do you impact speakers?
Yeah, well, I mean, the clearest way to present it is just that I help people land and deliver TEDx talks and keynote speeches. And the idea is that it comes from a place where you're both serving, but also it's attracting folks to your work and to your business. So I focus on elevating entrepreneurs, deliver their messages in such a way that is true to them and serves their audience and also grows their business. And it's just been honestly the best journey to land where I am now. And it's been a roundabout way, and grateful for all of the experiences that have led to this point, because it really just feels a perfect alignment of getting to serve the people that I love to work with.
I love it. I love it. So you started off as a comedian, and you still give us at least monthly dad jokes in your newsletter, which I always enjoy. So please keep them going.
Yes.
But when you think about being a stand-up comedian, what did that process teach you about writing a great speech?
Yeah, well, it teaches a lot. I think I honestly, if you have to start on a stage and you're not sure where, getting your chops doing stand-up comedy open mics is probably one of the best ways to build thick skin, but also to really learn how to hold an audience's attention and how to engage them, how to speak with clarity and confidence, how to develop a persona. There's so much about, especially in the delivery side. On the structure side, I would say that there are some similarities and there are some things that are completely different. One of the biggest takeaways that I still, carry over from those stand-up days where I was doing it just full time is that you want to be able, if you can say it in fewer words, that you want to, right? And it's really hard to say something clearly, concisely, and have impact. And I think that skill and that development is a lot of what I bring to folks. And it also comes up in the structure that I created for great speech. And I think because of those stand-up days, I always thought of jokes or humor not as just telling stories or I'm naturally funny, but there are certain kinds of jokes that follow a structure and, you know, a formula in a way. Even when you hear somebody tell, like your favorite stand-up comedian, when they tell a story, there's punchlines throughout the story, and there's a structure that builds in, creating surprise and creating a sense of like, hey, this, you know, this is what's being sort of punched at, you know? And so that, I think, was really important to me to bring into the structure of great speech, because I saw how it could transform an audience and make them laugh.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I want to see some of those clips eventually, but I'm sure you're amazing because you're amazing on stage. And I think there's so much when you talked about like the reps that you build. I come from a spoken word background, so very similar, where you
Yeah.
get on stage in these very vulnerable places. You don't know people. You're at a coffee shop or somewhere random. So you
Right.
build that muscle of the spontaneity that can happen with an audience, that can happen with new material. But I love that in your book you have like really laid out, like I would say that this is something we can be using as a workshop formula for becoming not just amazing speakers, but great speakers that really support the audience and going on the journey with us. So you wrote this book, and I remember we had a conversation recently when I came on your YouTube, and you said, you know, it's not an AI book, like you put in the actual labor into it, right? You wrote it. And I just want to know, like, why did you choose a book as the vehicle to share your framework around writing a great speech, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different cars you could have driven. You could have done a YouTube series, you could have done a documentary, but you chose particularly a book. So why a book for great speech?
That's a great question. And first, I wanna say, you know, I have a co-author of the book. His name's Steve Hayward. He's a professor of
Shout out to
English.
Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, he's a master, and like just you know, he's got a book that he wrote that's in all of the national libraries in Canada. And so we met at Colorado College, and I was teaching in the theater department there, and he was, you know, the chair of the English department, and you know, just, you know, like I was adjunct faculty, and I always saw like the professors as like, you know, like untouchable. And you know, we just became friends, and we talked about different like ideas for a book and little projects that we would do together. We started a podcast together at one point. I used to be on the radio, and I would do like a character on the radio. I was called Chris the Critical Critic, and I would do a movie review every Friday, and I would just dump on whatever the new movie was that was released, right? And Steve and I would write those bits together. And so we had already worked and collaborated and that sort of thing. But I think, put that aside, I think the impetus for the book was initially, hey, our clients would gain and have value by having something in their hand while they go through the process with us. And because that became the goal, there was both the motivation to do it for our clients, but also then we had a framework for what needs to be true. So what needs to be true is that they can take it. It will help them quickly understand whether we're writing the talk with them, for them, or they're doing it. Each of those levels would have access to the how and the deeper, like digging in deeper to the structure. And once that became clear, it was like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, let's do this. And the added benefit was that then it would be made public and accessible to other folks who maybe, you know, weren't sure if they wanted to work with us, or just needed something they could buy on Amazon because they just booked their TEDx talk, or their office asked them to do a talk that they don't want to do, you know, and they could have a quick framework and go through the book.
Well, it's a great book, and I'm glad that you all met and had the trust to trust that collaboration. And I
Mm.
love that you said you did it for your clients, right? My grandmother used to always say this quote: "Charity starts at home and then spreads abroad," right? And
Mm.
you all like really said, "Okay, this is our home. We want to have something our clients can hold on to and can take with them." And we also can do this for other folks who are not our clients yet, who still need the support as speakers. So there's a blueprint in this book on how to write a great speech. And I don't want you to give it all away because y'all need to go buy the book. It's in the description. Head over there and grab your copy. But if you want to just break down maybe the framework at a higher level, what
Yeah.
really goes into a great speech. And for folks who are watching, if you have questions about a great speech, please put them into the comments. We will come to them at the end. And also know this, like Cesar is not, just writing great speeches for any and everybody. Has written it for corporate clients, folks who are doctors, physicians around the world. And most of your TEDx talks that have hit YouTube, I mean, I think one hit 24 million views. So y'all are here with like an expert. So I'm just putting it on, Cesar, because they might not know who they're in the room with. And I want to make sure that they cultivate some really good questions around this. But what is the framework of a great speech?
Yeah, thank you for that, Evolve. Yeah, there's I think I want to start with a mindset shift, which is that often when we go to create something, we think we're like, okay, I've got this gig coming up. And when we're early in this process, we tend to think of a presentation. And unfortunately, most of us have experienced more bad presentations and talks than good ones. And that's just true because the nature of public speaking is that it's done all the time and that most people don't have any training on it. And so we're constantly seeing and modeling bad habits. So the first thing I want to do is move you from the idea that your talk is a presentation. What you want to do is start creating transformation for your audiences. And especially if you're wanting them to come back to you and see you as someone who can help them solve a problem and pay you to do something, right? And to position you as an expert. What you have to do is you have to create transformation in the time that you have with them. Because if you can do that in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes, in an hour, they will come back to you for more of that because it's rare. It's rare. Think of how many times you've been and worked with someone where you were like, that was awesome. I'm changed because of this time that I spent with you. When you think of those people, you tell everyone, right?
Right.
And you want to create a business that, I mean, every business that thrives has a huge chunk of their clients coming to them from referrals. So remember that that's the goal of the talk. So then you have to ask yourself, how do I create a structure that models transformation? So if you can show them how you or it depends on the kind of talk, but let's start with you, how you were transformed, and then show us how we can be a part of that transformation or experience it for ourselves. That's then, now you're thinking about your talk in the right way. So I'm just going to give you the structure, and it's, you really do have to dig in anyway, but I can give you the fundamentals of it, right? So in this world, you have to grab attention, and that's the first thing out of the gate that you do. Don't thank anybody for bringing you to the stage. Don't hem and haw. Let's not comment on, the air conditioning.
It's hot in here.
I don't know, unless you've got like a great opening stand-up bit, you want to come out and you want to hit them with it, right? Sometimes silence is also an attention getter. Sometimes saying nothing and owning the stage is just another way to have people lean in. And that's a tool in and of itself, right? And so this is different, and it shouldn't be. Like, I think everybody should use this tool, but for the most part, people get to the mic and it's like, man, what a joy it is to be here and to be back. I never thought, blah, 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 blah. All right. So anyway, there's a number of tools you can use. They're all in the book. And then once you grab attention, you want to get right to the problem. If there's no problem that you're solving and you can't clearly identify that problem, and people's heads aren't nodding when you say the problem, you don't have them, right? So you need to establish that quickly and clearly. Usually after that comes the through line, which is you're telling us where we're going. So, and think of the through line too as the sort of disruptive piece about why you're the expert, why you're the thought leader. And a through line is essentially moving us from where we are, problem, to where we could be. And it's often not intuitive. It's often the opposite of what we might think. You have to be careful there, because sometimes you don't want to make a claim or just like it's not like clickbait time, but you truly want to say, like, here's what I want to be true, and here's how we're thinking about it wrong. So then you take a step back, you build the problem, you agitate it, you make it urgent. You answer the question, why you and why now? After that, and we're so bought into now the problem and solving it, you reveal either your idea, if it's a TEDx talk, or what is essentially your IP, what it is that you teach people, or what your expertise is to solve this problem. And then this is what really makes a talk shareable. It's what makes people talk about the talk. It's why people would refer you. There's a second story that kind of brings us back to the beginning, to our through line in a new way. So we sort of have a new vision for how we can create this for ourselves. And it's usually emotionally resonant, right? Doesn't mean that we're crying, but we might be. I mean, it should pull something. Could be funny, but it should be emotionally charged. And often it's a hero story where we lift up someone who has transformed us. And the audience becomes the hero by the nature of them seeing themselves in this figure. Then they're ready to be called to action. There are some nuances if you're doing a keynote versus a TEDx, but that's the basic structure.
I love it. Thank you so much, y'all. I hope y'all if you don't have your notebook out, what are you here for? I mean, what are you really, really here for? So what I love about this framework is, one, it's simple. Two, when I've seen you do it as a master in this work, you're able to go into some of the best TEDx speeches and actually call out these moments that are happening, right, while the person is on the stage, which I love to see. You've been working with speakers for a while, right? Like, and you've worked with hundreds. What would you say are the biggest mistakes, besides that, getting up there and talking about the weather and how hot it is in the room, that people make when it comes to writing a great speech?
Yeah, well, first I want to say that don't beat yourself up, right? Like, there's, at the end of the day, if you're enjoying yourself up there and you're comfortable, people are going to enjoy it, and they want you to succeed. In most stages, that's true. They want you to succeed. In stand-up, and sometimes in spoken word, maybe not. you know, so just know that the stage
You're
that
not competing like that, right?
yeah. You know, it's like, oh wow, you came to see people fail. Oh, all right. You know, and so just know that and own that and know that you don't have to be anything more than who you are. And that alone is gonna put you in another class, because so many people come to that stage thinking they need to be something other than who they are. Or they need to be saying it a certain way, or they need to be moving in an exact way. Most of us are not distracting on stage, and our normal voice and the way that we speak is not distracting. So we don't need to think about that too much. So if you can do that, that's, you know, the biggest thing. The second thing is that we all do, we're all guilty of this, is we can make ourselves the hero. And again, I think that it's, if you're on stage, you're already in a position of credibility and authority, right? And so you don't want to do things that discredit you. And one of the things that discredits you is having to remind us of your credibility, or it's not that you don't share why you're the person, you do. But you know, sometimes people give their resume over and over, or like, you know, and it speaks more about your lack of confidence than your confidence. The same thing is true when you tell a story. If you're the hero of that story, if you're the hero of your own talk, you lose credibility. So remember to move that into a figure or something else that you experienced, right? And the first objection I get to this is people are like, well, wait a minute. Isn't every motivational speech I ever heard about that speaker overcoming adversity, and they did it and you can do it too? A lot of them are. But
And they're not great speeches.
Yeah. It does go back to what I said earlier, is there's a lot of bad habits out there, right? But there are phenomenal motivational speakers that have incredible stories of overcoming adversity. And if you look closely, the reason that you're moved so much is because actually they're not the hero of their incredible story. They move it. It belongs to someone or something else. And they're the conduit. They're the messenger. They're the sage because they've experienced it, but they're not the hero. I would say if you can do those two things, you're going to be easily in the top 25% of people that speak on any conference, any summit, anywhere you go.
Okay. Okay. So we got to lead with authenticity, be ourselves, right? But not be so much of ourselves where we're reading our resume and and becoming the hero of the story. And I really resonate with this. Over the summer, I went to this event called the Podcast Summit, and Eric Thomas spoke, right? He's an amazing motivational speaker. Like, he's probably one of the people that I think a lot of motivational speakers try to model themselves after.
Yes.
And he is an amazing storyteller. But when I think about it, often the stories are connected to his wife, his family, or his team, right? And things and conversations that he's had with them. So even though he's a part of the story, you're right. Like, he's definitely the conduit. He's not there sitting there saying, well, I said this. He's mostly telling us what they said to him and the challenges that they've had as a group. So I definitely resonate with that. And you know, we can get into articulation and tone and all of that, because I think he's very powerful because he also has this Southern Baptist kind of, like, you know, sing-songy type of way of doing it, which is great for him and his brand. But I've seen be really distracting when it comes to other speakers.
Yeah, it could be. And just one little nuance to the sort of authenticity piece. I think the bigger takeaway there is really understanding that you have everything you need to be a great speaker. So rather than like, I'm going to go be me, I think the message is more like, if there's something in the way telling you that you don't have it, you need to get over whatever that is, and you need to find out what that is. And that's work. And we all have those things, right? But we're so intuitive, especially these days. Like, I think we consume so much content, and we can see whether someone is centered, and if what they're saying they believe it, and they believe in themselves. And so I think that message is, do the work on you.
The better version of you becomes the better speaker, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So you must be over here in my notes, because that's actually my next question for you before we get into Q&A.
Sure.
Is, you work with speakers, and I know that you've worked with some of my clients and gotten them on the stage and been able to support them. And it's so interesting that you bring up that confidence, because I could say that when people leave working with you, they've changed as people. It's not just that they walked away with a great speech. I could see them more grounded in who they are, and in their voice, and how it will impact the world. So for folks who are wondering and are like, you know what, this seems like my coach, like I want to work with him. What does that process look like to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, that is what I hope for. And I really appreciate that comment. That's the most fulfilling thing, is, when a client is done and they go like, maybe not done, but they've completed the talk, right? And they're like, man, this did not go how I thought it would, and I'm better for it. And what they're saying is that often we're thinking about the outcome of the talk, like, okay, how many views am I going to get, or how many clients will this bring me? And that is a metric that you should definitely have as an entrepreneur, right? Like, how do you use it? But what they often don't anticipate, or maybe undervalue, is that if you really create something impactful, there's no way for you to not be changed by it. Because you're having to ask these really, especially when it's short, when you finally get clarity on what you want to say and why, that's sort of the definition of transformation. Right? Now you know. And what ends up happening is that everything that comes from the talk is then cherry on top, right? Because, and again, it's the same thing. Once you have that confidence, once you know what you are meant to give, the things in your business start to work, right? Because your energy is telling people that, like, you're good. Like, you're showing up. I have a friend and mentor, Carrie Overbrunner. He's got this book called Show Up Filled Up. And if you can be in a room with people, if you can be on a sales call, if you can be on a stage, and that's your energy, abundance begets abundance.
So you didn't tell me you were gonna come on here and preach. I mean,
Hey-o.
I love it. I love it. So we get into a little bit of the Q&A and see what questions we got.
Please.
Okay, let's do it. We got some cool ones in here. I've seen a couple of them pop up. So question: tips, process to remember your speech if you have never done this before.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, she said remember instead of memorize, which is interesting. So first of all, if it's not like bad or good. It's like, just depends on the talk. If it's a TEDx talk, you do want to have it memorized, but what I would say is that every great talk is beyond memorized. And so you own the material. Even if it's a keynote, I mean, there are times where we have to go and deliver something for work or whatever, and we literally have 3 days, and there's no expectation, and you shouldn't try and memorize anything, right? Because that's just going to trip you up. But for TEDx and keynotes, you want to own the content, like have it be beyond memorized. For a keynote, sometimes that's developed over time. For a TEDx, you might have a very short runway. So I'm going to answer that question first with like, I've got a TEDx, I've got a month, to memorize my talk. And all right, so here's how it goes. There are some things that most people know, right? So you can chunk out your talk. You put it into sections. You could create little note cards. You name each section, and you can do like a little flip card and that sort of thing. You can record it and listen to it. You can create an infographic, because the pictures will then help you also know what's next. So it's like you create a picture of the journey of your talk, right? All of those are great. All of those help. What I've seen as an additional layer that is, for me, is like a breakthrough, is the idea of the memory palace, which is to put those chunks into a space, a physical space. So some people do it like a physical space, like on the stage, that they know like each section, and that's, they can visualize it. But actually for me, because you're preparing not on that stage, it makes more sense in your home. And you would paste it, like you wake up in the bathroom, there's the intro, and the hallway is the next section, and so on. And you create a little picture of each space in the cutout of it, right? The printout. And then you practice it in each space. And then eventually you have it memorized and owned in each space. And when you're on stage, if ever there's a moment of recall, one of the things that happens is that we have a little moment of panic when we have to recall. And it's actually that panic that ends up elongating the time for the recall. But when you have a memory palace, your recall goes straight to a physical place. And then you can start to see what it is, right? So it eliminates that panic. At least that was true for me. And, maybe panic's an exaggeration, but, for sure, you're like 3 seconds is like an incredibly long time, right? When you're up there. So, yeah, those are my tips.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love that you said it's not about, right, the memorization, it's about owning it. And that leads us back to the beginning of this conversation. If we want a great speech, we want transformation. In order for that transformation to happen, I think so many speakers are so interested in speaking to the audience, right? Like how the audience is transformed. But truly, when you own the speech, you're transformed, right? And that's really what you kind of meant by that. I think,
And that goes into your delivery, right? So if you're fully present in the moment, you are, even if you've said it 100 times, like there are stories that I will tell that I can't not get emotional, right? And it's not necessarily because it's like something devastating. It's because when you learn to allow yourself to be present in your own storytelling and your own delivery, that's when delivery becomes transformational.
Yeah. Y'all are over here getting a master class. This is YouTube, y'all. Like and subscribe. So we do have someone here from LinkedIn, though. And they said, what are your tips for sharing a personal story without making yourself the hero?
Good. Yes. So personal story does not mean that you're does not necessarily mean that you have to be the hero, right? It's about you. You're sort of a character in it. In a way, there's no way to remove yourself if you're taking us on a journey, especially like, a TEDx talk. And that's a good way to think about it. You're taking us on a journey and you experience something happens. You either come across a problem, or you come across a sort of like a new way to solve a problem. That's the easiest way, I think, to think of it. But you're showing us. And so the way that you do that is you make yourself Yoda instead of Luke Skywalker, in Nancy Duarte's words, which I really connect with. You're, rather than making, you're not the lightsaber, you're Yoda, sort of telling us what's happening and what's going on, and then this happened, and then there was this, princess, and then, so that's the mode to operate in. I just had a client call today where they told a story about their sister, and the sister, he hadn't seen her in over, I don't know, it was like 10 or 15 years. And he tells this story because I asked him for, like, we're looking for, that OMG moment, that transformational moment. And just by instinct, he starts to tell us how she then told him how something he said changed her life, right? And we think that's an OMG moment that proves our point, but actually it makes us the hero, because that character is now telling us how you did this thing and it became amazing, right? And thank you so much. You are awesome. So this story, which we will still use, can be changed like this. She comes to you, she tells you about a moment of something that you said. And because of that thing, it reminds you of who you are. It was you in the past, but actually it's still you now, right? And the reason you don't have the context for all of this in his talk, but she becomes the hero, even though we don't have to say what she said or how she said it or whatever, or maybe we take a little creative liberty. But if she could be the reason that he has a realization instead of the reason that she was transformed by him, then the talk is shifted. The heroes are shifted.
So we're shifting it to her, right? Being the reason that this person is being impacted. I love that. I love that you broke that down as well, because I think it's hard. People are used to telling stories where they are the hero, right? Like they're used to that type of storytelling. So this is probably like, I'm assuming this is probably one of the biggest things that you have to work with your clients on shifting.
Exactly right. Because we think we're always thinking that we need to, again, this is just human nature, like that we're not sure of ourselves, or we're not sure if we're enough. And so the stories that come out, in a way, are trying to prove that we're enough. But if you become the speaker that knows you're enough, then everything changes. Your stories change, the way that you deliver changes, everything.
Ashe. We've got a couple more. This one is about actually the art of speaking. So someone owes a couple of quarters for some ums that they've utilized. That's one of my aunts. She used to say, if you're going to say then you're going to owe me some money. The saying and a lot go away after practicing out loud more. Is there a secret weapon when thinking on stage?
Yeah. So, like the reason we say is the same reason some of us will talk too fast. we're afraid of silence, of gaps, of what people will think if we're thinking, as though thinking is like a detriment. You know what I mean? Like, you could be thoughtful and like, if it's Q&A, nobody thinks too hard about the fact that you're thinking of your response. In a similar way, like, if you're speaking and you need to take a moment, that's natural. That's a human thing that we do, right? But that's what fillers are, is they're essentially fear of that gap. And I do it a ton. It's also just a habit. So it might not be consciously that we're, afraid, but also that we just do it so often it becomes the way that we speak. Now, sometimes it's distracting, and sometimes, like, you don't even notice it. What happens is that there are some audience members that are going to be very sensitive to it and others that aren't. So we just want to do our best not to have them, right? At the same time, I think it's something that that gets talked about more than it needs to be, because most of us aren't doing it in such a way where it's like so repetitive or redundant that you lose credibility and it becomes distracting. But the way to do this and to kind of move past it is to just practice a section and to focus on that, on silence, on pausing. And that will then start to become habit, to be comfortable in the space. Once you see pauses and gaps as a moment for audiences to feel and to be transformed, you start to look for those moments. You start to not want to fill every piece of airtime.
And you start to breathe more. Yeah. Which is so important when we're speaking on stage. I noticed that speakers who do use a lot of filler words, and when I was really in the beginning and speaking very fast, coming from spoken word and rap. Yeah, I rapped at one point. You come in speaking super fast, you will find yourself out of breath. You find yourself trying to gather a breath midway through. So that's super helpful. One thing that's really helped for me is listening to myself speak, listening back to it, and understanding what's going on in my spirit and my body when that comes up. So for some of us, we record content, we put things out there, but we never listen back. So we don't know why we utilize the filler words. It's, like you said, is it a habit? Was it that, I was feeling fearful? Is it about the silence? So listening to yourself can really help you to remove it. And I don't want you to remove it so much where you're not authentic, though, because some of the no's and ums are a part of who you are as a person. And during that Q&A or during that discussion, people want those versions of you as well. But when people are paying to have you speak, they most of the time don't want to hear it, to be honest. They want you to be a little bit quiet so that the audience can be gathered. But I love this. I thank you so much, Cesar, for coming through and being willing to be a part of this conversation. Oh, I'm sure we got plenty of more questions, but y'all gonna have to go find this man and ask him yourself. He has an amazing Facebook group. What's the name of the Facebook group, Cesar?
It's just Speak TEDx, I think, is the last part of it. But if you just search TEDx and keynote speakers, it'll come right up.
Yeah, definitely. So join the Facebook group, y'all. If you see in the description here, we have included the link to the book. I would love for you all to get that as well. And if you are in the Profitable Speaker Circle, you would have known this conversation was coming up and you would have been able to be prepared for your notebook. So if you was a little bit caught off guard and you were like, I want more conversations like this, please make sure you join my community. It's a free space for us to come and learn together. But Cesar, anything that you're working on, what would you like to share with folks as we close out? What you got going on in the next, we're almost in spring, believe it or not.
Oh my goodness.
It's moving so fast.
Well, look, the Facebook group's a great place to start. I do events, at least once a month that I'm posting on LinkedIn, Facebook. I've got an event actually tomorrow about the marketing side of speaking. And so, join me wherever feels great. But at the end of the day, like I want to be helpful. And so you feel free to shoot me a message if we didn't get to any questions or I can do anything for you.
Yes, please do, y'all. And we'll put when we put this replay up, y'all, we'll put the website too, so y'all can go check that out. But Cesar, please make sure that this book is in some schools, man. I don't know if you've been doing that with your business partner, but I think that if speakers that were in higher education in particular, and definitely even high school, could get their hands on this, we would have less boring presentations. And personally, that would make me a lot happier.
So it's in two colleges right now, university, and then there's one trade school as well that has it, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, it hasn't. Thank you for that. I would love to do more of that. If somebody is an expert in marketing books and like getting them into places, I'm all ears. It's been really, and also just want to say, like, it's been amazing just to see it move without doing much, right? So it's up on Amazon, and we sell at least a couple of books a day on Amazon, which is like, I mean, it's just wild to me that that's like even happening, because I just didn't think that. For me, I was like, yeah, this will be for our clients and nobody will buy it, right? And and it's just been I don't know, just a humbling experience to have it be received in such a positive way.
Yeah, you really fill the gap. There aren't very like many books on the art of doing this and doing it well. And the fact that it's just so simple, it's a quick read, it's not
Right.
overwhelming. And I find the writing to be empowering. You know, some of the writing around public speaking, you start reading the book and you start feeling bad about yourself.
Yeah, it's
And I
preachy.
think, right, preachy. And I think what you all did a really good job of is like empowering us to do it and to take the exercises and to have fun with it. So kudos to y'all for like going left when everyone else was going right. I think it was a good plan.
Thank you so much. Well,
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. Thank y'all for sticking around and watching. We really appreciate it. Until next time, peace. Go get some dinner. And thank you so much for being here. Peace, y'all.